heat check. You knew that was coming. It's heat check time.
Welcome to the Heat Check Podcast. I'm your host, John Gonzalez, joined as I am every week by our producer, Isaac Lee. We just watched the Eastern Conference Finals, Game 7.
Oh, yeah.
LeBron James, Isaac.
LeBron James.
LeBron James. That's basically the entire podcast, and we're done. We're into the outro already.
Repeat his name a couple times.
It wasn't a pretty game. It was an ugly game, but LeBron James did it. I want to say also, by the way, happy Memorial Day to everybody who's listening to the Heat Check Podcast and who checked out LeBron getting to his 8th straight NBA Finals. That was pretty impressive. We're going to talk about that a lot on this podcast, and there's going to be plenty of podcasts from the Ringer NBA show that you're going to want to check out this week. Because of that, we've got the Ringer NBA show feed. We've got Bill Simmons' podcast, and of course, Bill Simmons wrote a really good piece, prescient piece, about Jason Tatum and how good Jason Tatum is. He was excellent for the Celtics in Game 7, wasn't quite enough, but you should go and check out that story. It was basically about how Jason Tatum didn't quite realize that he was the Celtics' best player, even though he is. I think after this game, he might realize that he's the Celtics' best player because he went right at LeBron. He gave LeBron everything that he could handle and almost pulled it off. It was a very impressive performance. We've also got KOC piece on Klay Thompson and the Warriors forcing Game 7 on Monday night. And Jonathan Tjarks wrote about Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. That'll be up on the Ringer. So we're going to talk to Tjarks a little bit later on to preview the Warriors-Rockets series. And also, those of you who have listened to this podcast at length and have stuck with me know that back during the Sixers-Celtics series, I had mentioned I had lived in Boston for a while and worked in Boston for a while. And so I have, unfortunately for me, many friends from Boston, two of whom had sort of like given me a lot of heat after the Sixers series. They were like texting me while I was at a party and really busting my chops about it. Well, for the first time ever, those two knuckleheads who are also in the media will show up on this program. We're going to have mass holes on the Heat Check podcast. That'll be at the very end of the show. But first, to break down Game 7, LeBron James going to the finals, the Celtics getting close but not close enough, we're going to bring in one of our absolute favorites at the Heat Check. Let's do it.
Boom shakalaka! He's heating up! He's on fire!
All right, joining me on the other line, he's a 2-time New York Times bestseller. He's got a beautiful family. Every time I think like life can't be better for Shea Serrano, I look up and he's got this beautiful family. They named a gym after him. He's wildly rich and successful. Barack Obama once said that he was reading Shea's books or following him around or something. And then I look up during during Game 7, and I'm like, oh, Shea's going to come on. And I look up on Twitter and Chance the Rapper is tweeting at Shea Serrano. Shea, I don't know how you're on this podcast. You're too famous for us.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing here either. I feel like I don't know. I feel like in Space Jam when Michael Jordan was playing basketball with Elmer Fudd. That's what I feel like right now.
I'm definitely Elmer Fudd in this scenario. I'll take it though. You're here. Here you are. We watched Game 7 here. You watched Game 7 there in your home with your lovely family. It wasn't a pretty game, but LeBron James got it done. Yeah,
it was not. It was exactly the type of game everybody thought it was going to be going in. Both of the teams were just totally tired. I don't understand why they only gave them one game off before Game 7, but that's what it is. But yeah, they were both tired. They were both very clearly not afraid of the other team. There was a weird period during the beginning of the fourth where it was hard to tell who wanted to win though. Like, does LeBron really want to win this game? He looks kind of weird right now. And the Celtics, you start saying the same thing about them. And then LeBron hits that other gear or switch or whatever you want to call it that very few other people on the planet can do, and just sort of pulled away from them.
It's really amazing. I mean, and you did call this. I want to give you credit for this because you and I talked the other day on the phone, and I asked you what you thought this game was going to be, and you said ugly, and it was super ugly. But LeBron, he played all 48 minutes, and he really was, their everything per usual. He had 35 points. Jeff Green was their second leading scorer at 19, and that was basically it. But LeBron played all 48 minutes. He made half his shots. And down the stretch, I mean, he was just a monster, and him flexing on the entire city of Boston was just amazing.
Yeah. The Jeff Green game. Who would have thought? The Celtics are undefeated in the playoffs at home, and then Jeff Green walks in the door.
Look, so I caught myself. I'm watching the game, and of course, we knew LeBron was going to have another takeover game. I'm surprised he didn't get to 40 points again, but he did everything else. But I was thinking to myself, like, okay, they don't have Kevin Love. The rest of their roster is really garbage. And there was a point there in the game when I was thinking, oh, they need to get Jeff Green back in the game. And then I was like, this is terrible. Like, how bad is their roster?
Yeah, if that's a sentence that comes out of your mouth, then that's how you know you're talking about a team that should have lost in the first round of the playoffs. And yet here they are, LeBron for an eighth straight. Eight, John. That's incredible. I can't name 8 other things that have happened in a row, but LeBron has done this for 8 years straight. Almost 3,000 days we're talking about. It's been since somebody who was not LeBron James from the East was in the finals. It's unbelievable. The
last time he wasn't in the finals, Kobe Bryant was still a good basketball player, and the Lakers beat the Celtics in the finals, and Kobe was MVP. That's how long ago it was. Kobe's out there he's winning Oscars. He doesn't play basketball anymore. It's been forever.
Yeah, every single person, they can say the last time LeBron James was not in the finals, and then whatever they say after that, their whole lives were different.
Yeah.
Like if I think before LeBron was in the finals, I had less people alive in my family, which is unreal.
Yeah, what were you doing 8 years ago?
8 years ago puts me at 28 years old, so I wasn't doing anything. I had just started writing. I was still very poor, and life was pretty low-key great, but not as great as it is now that I get to watch LeBron James be in the finals every single year.
Your life is great for a lot of reasons. That's like the least of the reasons why your life is so great. But you're right. Like watching LeBron, there was sort of this internal debate. Well, you and I actually might have talked about it on a previous episode of Heat Check, but there was this internal debate at the Ringer about like whether or not we were all ready for something new and fresh, because it has been a long time. And I understand if people go, I wouldn't mind seeing the Celtics get in just because it would be a different look for the NBA in the finals and a different look for fandom. For me personally, I want as much LeBron in my life as possible until LeBron is done giving us great performances like this.
Yeah, I think that's fair, because you're talking about, at worst, the third best player in the history of all of basketball. It's whatever order you have in there, it's probably something like Jordan is obviously in there, LeBron is in there, and then maybe there's you might throw a wild card in there like Kareem. But you're watching that guy who we won't see another one like him for who knows how long. Another 10 or 15 years before we get another player of that caliber. So yeah, you should want him to stick around as long as possible. I mean, he's literally doing things that nobody has ever done ever. I just saw a thing right before you called where he has more points in Game 7s than anybody in the history of the NBA. And he's played less Game 7s than I think he passed Jerry West, but Jerry West has played one more Game 7 than LeBron has, but LeBron has still scored more. There are like a million little things that you get to say like that about LeBron that just like, what else is there? This is one of the greatest of all time. We should want him doing this for as long as possible.
It's incredible that he's capable of doing it because he's 33, right? He led the league in minutes this year. He played every single game, and now he's leading the playoffs in minutes. He played all 48 minutes in Game 7. It's just insane. Like at the end of the game, and Isaac and I were kind of goofing about it as we walked over the podcast studio, but at the end of the game, Jeff Van Gundy said this is the greatest achievement that LeBron will ever have, and I was laughing about it because it's an absurd statement. I mean, the guy has won 3 championships, and he's a multi-time MVP and multi-time finals MVP. But at the same time, like the fact that he's able to eat that many minutes at 33 years old and to will this garbage team into the finals, it's not that outlandish a statement. It's really an impressive feat.
Yeah, there's nothing like this that we've seen before. Whether you're just talking about this individual run with this group of players or that he's extending his stretch of finals trip. I mean, you have to go back to like when the Celtics were like, there were 7 teams in the NBA and they were all white except for like 3 players. Like you've got to go back to when everything was different before you can say, oh, this other person went to 8 or more finals in a row.
Yeah.
Nobody should be able to do this in a league with 30 teams. Nobody should be able to do this, regardless of where you're playing in the East and the West. I mean, just think there should have been 1 year, 2010, pick a year, whatever. There should have been one where he like twisted his ankle or something.
Yeah, something.
One little thing should have happened that should have kept him out of the finals at least once. He should have gone up against somebody who they just went nuts in the playoffs against them. But it just never happened. That's how good he is.
He almost went for a triple-double tonight. He had 35, 15 rebounds, and 9 assists, so he was one off the triple-double. He shot 50% from the floor. He was really incredible, and when you're talking about like something should have conspired against him at some point, this should have been that point. This year has been a crazy year for the Cavs. It's been bad all year long. I've been around them a little bit this year, and every time I see them, they always say the same thing. They're like, I don't know, we're still trying to figure it out. And I'm like, you're in the Eastern Conference Finals at this point. But just for him to have that performance in this game when nobody else aside from Jeff Green, which is really, again, a very funny statement, showed up. I mean, Shea, they shot 25.7% from three-point range. Which was which, believe it or not, was better than the Celtics, who shot 17.9% from 3-point range. I mean, you look at it was just a rock fight all night long, and yet still LeBron sort of pushed them over the top. I mean, look at their bench performance tonight. They got 8 minutes out of Larry Nance Jr. They got 9 minutes out of Jordan Clarkson, which was probably 10 minutes too much. And then they got 18 minutes out of Kyle Korver, who didn't hit his first shot until the fourth quarter. I mean, he was really bad. They just didn't shoot well at all. I'm surprised. I'm surprised when I look at this supporting cast that they got this far, really.
Yeah, this should have been a team that either doesn't make the playoffs or they lose in the first round. I mean, you look at other players that people like to compare LeBron to, like Kobe. Kobe has years where his team didn't make the playoffs or they lost in the first round or whatever. Like almost every superstar has that year. Jordan had it. Kobe had it. Tim Duncan, when he got older, had it. And LeBron has just never had it. You know what's crazy? I'm looking at the thing with you. Terry Rozier, 0 for 10 from 3. He was a little scary. Terry was a little scary tonight.
Explain to me. So let's get into the Celtics a little bit, because Terry Rozier was 0 for 10 from 3. He was 2 for 14 from the field. On top of that, and this happened all series long, where he ended up getting switched on to LeBron, and LeBron victimized him for most of the series. Tonight, for some reason, it wasn't quite as bad because LeBron was taking some shots over him early in the game instead of just driving right at him. But Terry Rozier was not good defensively in this game either. And like Kevin O'Connor put this in our Slack, and he was right about it. I was really kind of surprised that Brad Stevens kept going back to him. Terry Rozier played 36 minutes tonight, and he was terrible.
Well, who are you going to put in there? I mean, you need a point guard. I guess you can have Tatum maybe run the point guard, but that doesn't seem like it's going to work out for a great deal of time. I think you have to have Rozier in that moment. If nothing else, nobody expected him to be this far anyway.
Yeah.
So let him get his minutes in. Let him feel what that fire feels like on his feet, so that when he comes back next year, he goes like, all right, I remember this. And then I'm standing next to Kyrie now, so I don't have to play 36 minutes. I can play 18 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever. Like, that's fine. I'm not too worried about that. It is crazy that he missed all 10 of his threes.
Insane.
On some like James Harden shit.
What are you gonna do? What about at the end of towards the end of the game was like a minute and a half, 2 minutes left, maybe under, where he had missed 9 in a row. And he got the ball on the baseline and dribbled back out for a 3 and shot this sort of almost a turnaround 3 from the corner. And I'm like, you're right. That was some James Harden shit. I'm like, he's shooting heat check 3s and he hasn't made one yet.
Yeah, that's why. That's part of the reason everybody loves him, though.
Yeah,
he's just gonna do what he does.
So not a good performance for him. Not a good performance for Jaylen Brown, who was also sort of MIA tonight, 5 for 18 from the floor. He only made 3 of his 12 3-pointers, so those were absolutely killer. Jason, I mean, we really need to talk about Jason Tatum, because Jason Tatum was the reason why the Celtics were in this game. He's the reason why the Celtics were in this series. He's the reason why they made it this far after Kyrie Irving went down. That kid had a minute there where he looked like a rookie during the regular season, and it like sort of caught up to him. And then all of a sudden it was over and he was just like a superstar. He has been absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, he of course had the big dunk on LeBron.
Insane.
And then I believe it was right after that he hit the three to put them in the lead.
Yes.
And then we got Jeff Green three right after that, unfortunately for them. But yeah, Tatum is the real deal. I wonder what Ben Simmons was thinking when he was watching that game. That's what I want to know.
I was saying this to Isaac. Brian Colangelo, I don't know what he was thinking. I didn't fault him for moving up in the draft. I do, however, fault him very much for giving Danny Ainge an extra pick on top of Danny Ainge ending up with Jason Tatum, because this kid's not going to be a superstar down the line. Bill Simmons wrote about this on the ringer.com, shouts to the boss, where he said, like, Jason Tatum might not even realize that he's their best player. He's unbelievable right now, not tomorrow, today.
Yeah, right now. He's there. He was the best player for them right now. When the season starts next year, he's already their second best player, probably.
I was going to ask you about this. When Kyrie and Gordon come back, because now all of a sudden, like, it was one thing for Brad Stevens to go, okay, well, we need offense and we need somebody to take over, and this kid's obviously our best option. But what happens when those two guys come back? Like, where does he fall in the pecking order, and how do they incorporate everybody?
I feel like he gobbled up some of Gordon's time. That's what it feels like. Yeah. I mean, you need Kyrie at point guard, and Kyrie does what Kyrie does. He's great at that. But to have Kyrie and Tatum next to each other, like, that's dangerous. Because if Kyrie was in this game, they would not have shot 17% from three. It would have all felt a little bit different. Everything would have been a little bit easier for them, because that's what Kyrie does when he's in the game. He's so threatening that he just opens everything else up for everybody else. So watching this, it definitely felt like he sort of leapfrogged Gordon, which is probably unfair. I mean, Gordon's an all-star.
Yeah.
And I think it might just be because we haven't seen him play in so long that you kind of forget how great he is. But tonight, after that game, after that stretch where Tatum tried to steal the game for the Celtics, it feels like he's their second best player.
He's a rookie, and not only did he keep them in that game, but he was shot for shot, dunk for dunk, defensive possession for defensive possession with the best player of his era that entire game. Like, he was going right at, like you said, he literally dunked on LeBron, which was one of those, I don't think that's a good idea. And then he threw it down anyway. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe he pulled that off. And like, for him to be able to, in that moment, because like they showed this earlier in the game broadcast where the very first shot of his NBA career earlier in the year was blocked by LeBron. And now all of a sudden, like, and he even admitted, he was like, I was shook, I'm playing against my hero, and it was a weird thing. And now all of a sudden, however many games later, towards the end of the season in the Eastern Conference Finals in a Game 7, he looks like he's every bit as good, and he knows he belongs there, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm. It's so fun to watch that happen. There was that tweet going around, like somebody dug up an old tweet where he was asking for LeBron to follow him on Twitter.
Yeah.
And we go from that to just dunking on him very aggressively, and not just dunking on him and then running up on him with his chest out, like yelling at LeBron.
It's insane.
Unbelievable. You can isolate that play and say, okay, that's the difference between somebody like Tatum, who is going to be a superstar for a long time, like a legitimate superstar, versus Terry Rozier, who is fun and everybody loves him, but he doesn't have that level to get to like Tatum does. He went up for that same dunk against LeBron, and LeBron got him. Tatum went up and he got LeBron. Like, that's just a little thing to look at and say, like, oh, that's the difference between these two guys. And I know that it's dumb to pick one play and do that, but that's what I would do.
Like, on the one hand, I've liked watching Tatum all year long. And from the very beginning, anybody who's listening to this podcast knows, like, back when Julia and I were doing it regularly together, we're all about the J team. And like, you could see this progression with this kid. But for me, it's gone from, I really like watching him, to now going, shit. For the next however many years, he's just going to terrorize the Eastern Conference and the Sixers. And I can't believe the Sixers instead have Markelle Fultz. It's really upsetting.
Well, yeah. What happens because how old is Tatum's like 20, right?
He just turned 20.
Okay. So what happens when he's 24 and he puts on another 20 pounds of muscle? Like, well, you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's terrifying.
That's even worse than what we're looking at now. He's going to be running shit for a good little while, it feels like.
For a good little while. I think, like, if you're the Celtics, it probably feels disappointing right now, but with a little bit of perspective, you look back and you go, holy shit, look what we did without Kyrie and Gordon. And also on top of that, like, look how far Jason Tatum came and the experience he gleaned for this. Because exactly what you said, like, in a couple of years when he's, 20, 30 pounds heavier and just like all of a sudden looking like LeBron, this is going to go a long way for them.
Mm-hmm. It feels like that for sure. Although we might just be romanticizing everything. It might all fall apart. Who knows?
I hope so. Let's root for that. Listen, I have a lot of friends in Boston, and nothing pleases me more than when things fall apart for them. What do you think because you have a lot of things going on in your life, but before you go, what do you think now? LeBron gets into the finals again, 8th straight time. It's amazing, but as we said, this team is limited. He's the guy. Whoever gets out of Game 7 for the Western Conference is going to be a tough matchup for them. First, what do you think happens in Game 7 on Monday night?
The Warriors run away with it. Chris Paul is not going to play. If he does play, he's going to be at like 40% or some bullshit like that, which is just heartbreaking for him.
Yeah, it is.
But the Rockets just can't keep up with the Warriors without him. He's the guy who's not afraid. He's the guy that they can sort of stand behind and go like, all right, if this is a fist fight, we got a guy who's not backing down. So that's going to hurt them a whole bunch. And that's what we saw in Game 6. Like, it was a great game, 74-70 with like 6 minutes left in the third quarter. And then the Warriors did that thing where they just sort of reach for your neck and start squeezing it. And, Harden went invisible. He had played great up until then. He 30-something points. And then over the last 18 minutes of the game, 2 points, 5 turnovers, where like 3 of his shots got blocked. It was just bad.
Yeah.
And you needed that energy, and you needed that Chris Paul energy. And like, you can't put all that on James. Of course, he's just one guy against 4 really, really good. 2 of the best players in the NBA, a third, maybe the best spot up shooter of all time, and Clay, and then Draymond. Like, it's unfair to say it's James's fault. It's fun to do, but it's unfair. I think the Warriors run away from them in Game 7, and then they run away from the Cavs in the finals.
Did I see some positive Houston Rockets tweets from you, by the way, in the last game? Were you kind of like secretly rooting for them there?
No, I've very openly been rooting for them. I want to see the Warriors fall. Like, that's what I'm trying to send the Rockets all of my energy from the universe that I can to see the Warriors lose in the playoffs, because it would be just perfect.
This is an incredible turn of events for a Spurs superfan.
Oh yeah. It's less rooting for the Rockets. It's more rooting against the Warriors. But yeah, I do want the Rockets to win. That would make me very happy. The number one scenario is the Rockets beat the Warriors and then they lose to LeBron. That's the number one scenario for me.
That would be amazing. I think I'm with you. I think the Warriors are probably going to run away with it, especially without Chris Paul. But do you give LeBron any shot to steal a game against either of those teams?
If they play the Rockets, he's got a chance. Mm-hmm. He can do enough against Harden and the Rockets to steal that series from them. It would be a long series. It would be 6 or 7, and he would have to do what he did tonight, basically. I just would trust him with that pressure on him more than I would trust Harden at this point. So yeah, but if it's the Warriors, no. And it's gonna super suck, because as soon as they lose, we're gonna have to, for the rest of our lives, hear a bunch of idiots saying, "Oh, but LeBron lost as many finals as Jordan won." Like, okay, I can already hear it happening, and I'm already upset about it.
Yeah, it's we're all bracing for that. I'm hoping for a good finals either way. Make sure that you read Shea Serrano. He's constantly writing stuff. He's on the Heat Check podcast all the time. He's been on some other podcasts. Not as fun as this one, though. I appreciate it. You're the LeBron James of Heat Check.
I'll take it.
All right, homie. Thanks for doing this.
All right,
later. I love having Shea on the program. That was fun to talk to him, and it's always fun to talk to Jonathan Tjarks, who's going to be coming on right now to talk about Warriors and Rockets.
Boom shakalaka! He's heating up. He's on fire.
All right, joining me on the other line from the NBA Draft Class podcast. He's a regular here on Heat Check. He's got a fantastic story that's going to be up as we're recording this. It'll be up right afterwards on Game 7 from the Eastern Conference, LeBron's big win. It's Jonathan Tjarks. What's up, Tjarks?
How you doing, guys? Fun to watch LeBron, man. Never get tired of it.
We were just talking about that with Shea. I think you and I actually talked about it on this podcast last time you were on, where I was like, I want as much LeBron in my life as I can possibly get until I can't get it anymore. Where are you on? Do you have any LeBron fatigue, or are you happy that he's back in the finals again?
I had some LeBron fatigue coming into the series, but he was just so great. And I think it's like you're starting to see him being a little aging. So it's not going to last forever. So let's get us more LeBron in our lives. I'm not mad about it.
Yeah. And that performance, you and I were talking right before you came on, like that was amazing, right? I mean, like to see him do that yet again with that supporting cast is incredible. And for him to play all 48 minutes is incredible. And for him to make his 8th straight finals is incredible. And like, I don't know, man, he's a monster.
It's just unbelievable, man. So like what I'm writing about for tomorrow, what's really amazing about LeBron to me. So you go back to that last series with Toronto. They won that Toronto series with offense. They played LeBron, Love, Korver, and they won games like 125 to 110, right? And then like they come to the Cleveland series, that's not working. Love gets hurt. Korver is not playing a lot. So they go all defense around LeBron. They play like LeBron, Thompson, Green, Hill, Smith, and they went like 85-75. Like the team changed in 2 weeks. And LeBron is just so good at everything that they make it work. Because no matter who's around him, LeBron finds a way. It's remarkable, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where you watch it and like I understand the fatigue that people have just from an entertainment perspective, because we are barreling towards, and we're going to get into Warriors Rockets here in just a second, but we're barreling towards another finals where LeBron's in it, but he probably doesn't have enough weapons to pull anything out. And that's kind of a bummer. However, I think when he's done for good, and we think back on this period and this stretch, and we think about how much energy is required, and on top of that, how much skill and how much luck for him to make 8 straight finals, and who knows how many more he could potentially make, depending on where he lands in the offseason.
I will say this, like somebody may catch Jordan's 6 rings, but 8 straight finals in this era, in the modern NBA, I'm not sure that gets caught. That is 8 straight finals, just the not getting hurt.
Yeah.
8 straight years. All the games he's played.
The endurance, the amount of minutes, like the amount of energy, the amount of effort. There was this video before the game where somebody put it on Twitter where it was like the rest of the Cavs standing in the hallway outside the visitors locker room at the Garden, and LeBron was doing push-ups and they were just watching him. And I'm like, that's perfect. LeBron is doing work even before the game, and his teammates are still watching him. It was perfect.
Hashtag narrative right there. Perfect.
All right,
perfect kicker for a story.
Let's get into Warriors and Rockets. Game 7 on Monday night. We're excited about it. Game 6 was interesting if you're a Warriors fan, and a lot less interesting if you're a Rockets fan. Warriors won by 29. They outscored Houston 64-25 in the second half. Klay Thompson went off. We got a Klay sighting. 35 points, 9 threes.
Man, I love Klay. That quote after the game where he was like, am I bitter for this? Not really. Well, I guess I am. Yeah. Like Klay just lives in the moment, man. Klay just, whatever happens right in front of him. He has no memory, perfect shooter, no conscience. Love it.
It's amazing to see how quickly he can get shots up to. According to Second Spectrum, they track, do a bunch of tracking on this. 7 of his 9 made threes, Tjarks. He released it within 1 second of touching the ball. That's insane.
Gosh. And because he's 6'7", so like you have to be attached. So he shoots over most guys anyways. Klay is, man. When Klay gets going, there's nothing you can even do about it. You just give him the points. Because it's that fast, that size.
Yeah, it's insane. On top of that, they got 23 from KD. They got 29 from Steph. As a team, they shot over 42% from 3 and almost 50% from the floor. We've gone back and forth in this series because the series hasn't produced many close games. Games 4 and 5 were close in that it was a combined 7 points, but the rest of them were all Warriors wins and blowouts. Like every time I look at the Warriors, though, when they're clicking, and I go, oh, right, of course, they're the Warriors. They're going to win this.
Yeah, I mean, I think Houston, if I was Houston, I think the formula is Cleveland's formula tonight. Because you look at those 2 wins they had, they were in the 90s, slow the pace, limit possessions, play great defense, and just count on your superstar to carry you home at home. I mean, James Harden's not LeBron, but he might have to be to win tomorrow night, especially with Paul being limited if he even plays.
Yeah, so Chris Paul is questionable to play. They think he's going to be a game-time decision. That's such a bummer.
He'll get a Willis Reed probably, right? I think he'll get a Willis Reed moment at the very least. He'll try.
I mean, I think so, but I wonder... I mean, how much it's really bothering him and how much he can be out there, because I mean, he was fantastic for them in this series, and you could make a case that he was a better option for them than Harden in some spots. Harden, went 2 games straight without making a 3-pointer, finally got it going in game 6, but he scored 32 in game 6 and they still got blown out. Like, I wonder what kind of performance they'd have to get from Harden without Paul to pull this out. I don't know what the calculation would be.
I would think they probably need 40 from Harden, maybe like 20, 25 from Gordon. The other guys make enough 3. That's what's tough, is like there's so few guys who create shots in that roster. So you miss Paul. It's just Harden and Gordon. Who else is getting? I mean, Gerald Green, like.
Yeah. Well, you need something from someone somewhere, right? I mean, like, and this is something that continues to amaze me. Like, you look at the Rockets, who were the best team in the NBA this season. They have the heavy favorite for MVP. He's going to win it. And yet, you look at their roster and you go, I don't think they have enough, right? Like, especially without Chris Paul. Even with Chris Paul, I'm not sure that they have enough. But they've got, I mean, like, they're going to have to get something out of Ariza, fine. But, like, you're not going to get 30 points out of Ariza. Maybe Gordon catches fire and just flames them from 3. But beyond that, yeah, you've got Gerald Green and nothing. You've got nothing on your bench. You have nothing that you
Capella, I don't know. The big thing to me, like Golden State did early in the series, is like when they switched everything and they were like, we're going to live with Harden, Paul, and Gordon going one-on-one, and we're not going to let these supporting cast guys get open shots. Like, if Ariza's going to score, it's going to be off a dribble. So, like, yeah, because most teams can't switch those screens and like, even contain Harden, Paul, and Gordon. Golden State can at least kind of contain them, and that's all you have to do because nobody else can score on that team. They can all just spot up. They need someone getting them shots.
It's interesting that you said that you think that they should ugly up the game, because the Rockets should ugly up the game and play it slow, because that's obviously not how they played the entire season. I mean, they were, run, shoot as many threes as you possibly can, take as many shots early in your first and second actions as possible and just outscore teams. And they were 22-2 during the regular season. This is a Kevin O'Connor special stat, 22-2 during the regular season when they shot 40% or better from 3. But they haven't hit that mark once during the Warriors series. So for me, like, I guess just in a vacuum, I think to myself, God, if they're going to win it, they've got to like be really hot from 3 again, except for, maybe you're right. Maybe they don't have that ability to do that in this series.
Yeah, I wonder if like Golden State is going to say, we're going to stay, like they've been staying home on shooters a lot. So it's like, yeah, like they're missing shots, but they're not getting open shots like they were in the regular season against defenses. Like Golden State's trying not to rotate. Like, you look at those first 2 series, the Minnesota and Utah series, they're like, we don't want our big men guarding Harden and Paul, so we're going to send multiple guys and rotate. Well, Houston's going to kill it every time. Golden State's saying, you know what, those guys beat us, they beat us, we're staying home, we're not rotating, we're not letting those other guys get open threes, because that's when they're unbeatable when those guys make threes.
Yeah. And Golden State's defense, too, I mean, you're right. Like, they're going to say, hey, if those other guys can beat us, then good luck with that. But on top of that, like, they forced the Rockets into 21 turnovers in game 6, which is their second most of the season. They were just swarming. They were everywhere. And they're so long. And like you mentioned Clint Capella, like when they decided to take Clint Capella out of the game, it didn't feel like it was that big a challenge for them. And I just look around at the rest of the cast that Houston has, and I go, I don't know. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they pull it off, even though it is a home game, and we've seen how important home court advantage has been in both series. I just think it's just like a really, really tall order for them. I'd be surprised.
Okay, here's
if
what
they
I would
win
think. If I was Houston, I would think, like, because Golden State puts bad lineups out sometimes, because like they're supporting cast and pretty bad in this series too.
It is.
So when they have like Looney, Bell, and Nick Young in there, I would get maybe Ryan Anderson in. Maybe you can get like 10 quick points out of Ryan Anderson. Just like take 5 threes. I don't even care. And maybe you can outscore those guys in those 2-minute stretch. Find some like found money on offense.
But he's such a net negative because he's a disaster on defense. Like, where would you even hide him?
Well, I think like, so you put him on Kevon Looney, and if they screen with Looney, you trap the ball and say, if Kevon Looney beats me 4-on-3, Kevon Looney beats me 4-on-3. I'll live with that. I think that's maybe the idea. I don't know. I'm digging deep here, Cons.
I know.
Deep for D'Antoni.
I like that you're doing this. I think that this is good for if you're a Rockets fan, like Tjarks is trying to find a way for them to win this game. But I think when your answer is, hey, maybe you can get something out of Ryan Anderson, you're fucked.
I mean, you got to play the game, right? You can't give up before the game starts. You got to come up with something. Let's have a plan.
Yeah, fair enough. It's just like It's kind of weird, isn't it, that we got 2 Game 7s and then like not many of these games were close and good, right? Like there was, like I said, games 4 and 5 were combined 7 points in the Western Conference, and we just had Game 7 that was a bad game, but it was close enough to be dramatic. But it's kind of crazy that we went to Game 7 in both series, and I don't feel like either series was particularly like tight or entertaining.
No, not really. That was, I guess Houston Golden State has found its way in 4 and 5, but it was ugly basketball. I wonder if it's like the variance thing with 3-pointers. If you're taking so many threes, the game can swing so fast, right? It feels like games could decide. It feels like with the way the 3 is now, you can win a game at any point in the game. Like you can have a 3-minute stretch where you just knock out a team. And so it's hard to get the game close to the end because the game can be decided in 4 minutes.
Yeah, I was talking to some of my friends who work at NFL Network, as does my wife, just talking to her about it too. But like if this had happened in, say, like the NFL playoffs or even like baseball playoffs, where like a bunch of the games were not close at all and were blowouts in the conference finals, there would be like a bunch of think pieces about like what a crisis they were going through. And in the NBA, like we've almost kind of gotten used to it because of the way the finals have gone recently. And it's a bummer. Like I really like close dramatic basketball, and I am afraid that we're not going to get many more of those games the rest of the way.
I would say props to the blog boys. Like we're giving them good content. Like we're finding a way to keep it, keeping everybody happy with our content.
Yes, we are.
I think like the big thing with like the public, it's like, because you got LeBron, one of the greatest players of all time. You got the Warriors, one of the greatest teams of all time. I think people like greatness. They tune into that. Like when I'm a casual fan of a sport, like I love to watch the best soccer team of all time. I won't watch 2 good soccer teams play because I don't care. But when it's like the best of all time, it drives your curiosity, I think.
Yeah, and that's why I'm happy that LeBron is going to be in there. And I think that the Warriors are going to barrel their way to another finals, and we're going to get yet another matchup between those 2 teams. It's just the Warriors are just so overloaded with talent. Not to skip over the Houston Rockets here. If the Rockets make it, that would make it, an interesting finals.
See, that's what I like. I'm kind of rooting for the Rockets just so it's a different finals. Like, just would be something interesting. I feel like Warriors Cavs. We'll have to dig deep into our blog content to come up with something for that one. We'll have to really work for that.
Can't we just recycle everything we wrote last year? Let's just do that. We'll just swap out like Jordan Clarkson for somebody. It'll be fine. What do you so give me a prediction here for Game 7.
I mean, I'm gonna, just like LeBron in the East, I'm not gonna bet against the Warriors if somebody beats them. I'm gonna have to go with Golden State.
I'm with you. I think it's Golden State. I think they get through. The Rockets had a hell of a season, but that's a really tough blow to lose Chris Paul. And even with Chris Paul, it was gonna be a tall order anyway. Because I just like, it's hard for me, just like you said, even if they were fully healthy, I would still probably bet on the Warriors because of the Warriors. And until you unseat them, you got to go through them. All right. So let's say it is Warriors and they get through. Any chance LeBron steals a game?
Yeah, I mean, I would look at if Iguodala is healthy. I think Golden State's supporting cast has really been exposed in the series. Like after their top 4, who do you trust? I mean, Livingston's not playing 15 minutes. You got Looney and Bell, Nick Young, who knows? I think if Iguodala is not healthy, they really only have 4 good players right now. That gives Cleveland a chance to steal one at home, I think. If Iguodala is healthy, I think they're just too good.
Yeah, and it looks like Iguodala isn't healthy. So that's...
Is he playing tomorrow?
It doesn't look like it, no.
And these playoffs have shown, like, you got to have a good player at every position. Like, it can be attacked. Like, Golden State has 4 great players, but that 5th player can be attacked by Cleveland, I think. That'll be, like, what they have to go on.
It's going to be tough for Cleveland, but at least we get more LeBron, right? I mean, like, that's something that we're both in agreement on, and we get to see him. And look, we'll enjoy it while we can, and maybe he steals a game, and eventually we'll get off this Warriors versus LeBron in Cleveland.
Well, I mean,
carousel.
LeBron's getting himself a squad this summer. Like, LeBron's tired of losing the Warriors. He's going to make some phone calls. I'm excited for this summer. LeBron's going to get him a nice team, I think.
Go get him a squad. We all want to see that happen. For now, we'll take one more series with the Cavs. Go read Jonathan Tjarks. He's got a bunch of stuff up on the Ringer. It's all excellent. He'll be back later in the week on the NBA show on Draft Class and some other concerns. Tjarks, you're the best. Thanks for doing this.
All right, man. Good times as always.
All right, homie. That was Jonathan Tjarks. Always love having him on the program. These next 2 guys are my 2 buddies from Boston who are in Mourning, and that's why I'm excited to have them on. Normally, guys from Boston on the program, they'd have to work here to be on Heat Check, but because they lost, I'm happy to talk to my buddies and poke a little fun at them. Let's bring in my Boston guys.
Boom shakalaka! He's heating up. He's on fire.
All right, joining me on the other line, two of my, and I'm doing air quotes here when I say friends because they're from Boston, a former editor at ESPN The Magazine, now a reporter at Politico, Jason Schwartz is here, and a national writer at large at Thrillist. He's also won a James Beard Award somehow. Kevin Alexander is here. Somehow they're both from Boston, and neither of them are named Schmitty or Sully, and they were quite distraught about the Celtics.
Yeah, I can't believe we agreed to this. Yeah, thank you for having us on House of Carb. Big fan of the pod.
Yeah, that's actually the pod you should probably be on. But you two knuckleheads, all throughout the Sixers and Celtics series, were texting me incessantly to the point where I was muting you regularly, and you were laughing and you were enjoying yourselves. And then we kind of started laughing about, well, you know, maybe you should come on at the end of the pod, considering like the Celtics were up 2-0 against LeBron. And then it all went south tonight, gang.
Yeah. I'm just upset. Like, I don't know why we're on this. I'm really upset. You tricked us into this when the Celtics were up, and now I don't know. I mean, if I can do one thing on this, which I think is just, I don't know if your producers are aware of your living situation when we knew you in Boston. Mm-hmm. I kind of want to spend the entire time on that. Like, do they know that you lived in a windowless basement apartment in Central Square? Like, do they know about the dumpster that you had to crawl through, and the fact that you actually you slept on a futon under a regulation-sized poker table?
I feel like this is misplaced anger, and you're lashing out because the Celtics lost to LeBron James, the greatest player of his generation. You guys were right there. You got to feel at least a little bit good about Jason Tatum, though, right? Even though the Celtics definitely lost and will not be playing any more basketball for the rest of the year, and it was crushing and hugely disappointing, and also you lost the Super Bowl to the Eagles. You got to feel a little bit good about Jason Tatum, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to let you drag me down, Gons. It was a disappointing game, but it was house money. They're going to come back next year. You got Gordon Hayward, Kyrie Irving, all of the draft picks. It feels greedy to be too upset about this. Despite your crack about the Eagles, the Patriots still have 5 Super Bowls too. So I'm not too bad. It's fine. I'd also like to point out that 2 of our best players were out, Daniel Tice and Kyrie Irving. So if we had Tice in that game, it totally changes the trajectory of that series, obviously.
Tice is Game 7 material. I mean, everybody knows he rides when Game 7 happens.
You guys are joking. Tice would have been really helpful in that series. And I'm going to stand by that as a serious comment. They could have used his size and rebounding for sure.
What they could have used was Terry Rozier either making a shot or conversely not taking 10 3-pointers and missing them all, or also maybe playing some defense. He was horrendous in that game.
Yeah. When your 3 of your best players are a combined 8 of 42, that's not usually the greatest. And then you add in Marcus Morris, who is basically the NBA equivalent of like the guy who refuses to get off the court during pickup games, even if his team loses. And he goes 5 for 14, and it's like, that's 23%. And then you got Tatum dunking on LeBron all day. We were all witnesses to Tatum dunking on LeBron, then telling LeBron about it, and then telling LeBron about it later after the game when they were hugging. So other than that, it was horrible. I mean, Marcus Smart was 1 for 10, which is actually about an average Marcus Smart game.
Yeah, it is.
But when everyone else is that bad, you're not going to win.
I got to say, for a guy who writes about food, Kevin, that was some good math by you. That's good number using.
Yeah, man. Got a calculator on my iPhone. The thing with Rozier is it's one thing to miss shots, but it's another to miss shots because you look nervous. And those 2 shots at the end, the one from the arc, you could tell he didn't take the beat and set his feet and shoot it. He was sort of at a bad angle. And then the other one on the baseline, he was falling away when he didn't need to be. So you could just sort of feel the moment get the best of them. And that was the part that sort of stunk.
Unless you're not from Boston, at which point it was amazing.
It was great for you.
I really enjoy, as everybody at the Heat Check, I love Jason Tatum, right? I really enjoy watching him play. But if I can get Jason Tatum having a good performance in a Celtics loss, man, now we're finding the sweet spot.
I don't want to go too Tommy Heinsohn here, but there were a bunch of like, put him in his place, he's a rookie foul calls there at the end, especially after he dunked on LeBron. Did you see him dunk on LeBron?
Oh, this is the full Heinsohn.
He dunked on LeBron.
You didn't want to go too Heinsohn, you've gone the full Heinsohn.
But that call in the lane, give me a break. And then there was a call on the side where he threw the ball out of bounds. I mean, I get it. LeBron is the best player in any sport, including video games, in the world. But like, come on, man.
Yeah, but you guys also got the call where Marcus Smart was moving and in the air, and on top of that threw in some extra acting flop where he got the call on LeBron. So like that goes both ways. You can't listen, Boston does not get to cry about the refs ever. You guys have won too many championships. I'm just really thrilled that I'm having you on after a loss and not after Boston goes to the finals without their two best players, Tice included. Let me ask you another question before I let you two go. What the hell is cuss cries? Who came up with that?
With what?
See Us Rise. It looks like it's supposed to be it's supposed to be See Us Rise, but it actually is cuss cries.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. Whoever came up with that hashtag should be fired immediately. I have no defense of that.
I don't know. It's kind of growing on me because cuss cries sounds like something that Boston people would do, like where you're swearing and weeping at the same time. It's like, it's a very Boston thing.
It is a very Boston thing.
The demoralizing thing about it is I saw that hashtag 10,000 times during the playoffs and on their t-shirt. I read it incorrectly each time. I actually read it as cuss rise or whatever each time. It was very frustrating for me personally.
Colleen came into the living room the other day during the game and took one look at the shirt and goes, "What the hell is crisscross?" Like, that's perfect. That's exactly right.
It's a
exactly
great rap group.
Crisscross is a great rap group. The Boston Celtics had a good season, not good enough. They're on their way out. It's been wonderful, guys, talking to you. I mean, I really, really enjoyed this. Let's not do it again anytime soon.
This wasn't great.
No, I did not feel good about it either.
Kevin Alexander, you can read his stuff at Thrillist. He's a James Beater Award winner somehow. Maybe House will have you on House of Carbs, and also Jason Schwartz is a reporter at Politico. They're both smarter than they sound despite being from Boston. Guys, I miss you.
Miss you too, guys.
I do not.
Goodbye. All right, that was fun to talk to those two guys. Despite the fact, Isaac, that they slandered me throughout much of the beginning of the podcast, it was all dirty, dirty lies.
Don't worry, I'll cut all of that.
Cut it all out. I want to say thanks to those two, Kevin and Schwartz, who actually are both very talented reporters. You should check their stuff out online. Thanks to Jonathan Tjarks. Thanks to Shea Serrano. Thanks to Isaac Lee. Make sure you check out all of the Ringer Podcast Network. We're going to have KOC and Verno after the Western Conference Finals Game 7. We're going to have maybe a finals preview podcast. You want to stay tuned for that. We'll have group chat, draft class crossover on Thursday night / Friday morning. Big boss man Bill Simmons will have all of his podcasts. I will be on the road at the finals with one Kevin O'Connor, so you can check out our stuff both on theringer.com and right here on the Ringer NBA show feed. Thank you so much for listening. Heat Check will be back next week. See ya.